Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And I have been striving to attract more creative women to come onto our platform. And today I have managed to attract one of those phenomenal women. So welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Well, hi there, Gertrude. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Alissa Musto. I am based in Florida in the United States. I'm 27 years old, and I am a professional full-time musician, singer, songwriter, and actor. I grew up in a family of professional musicians. I started playing the piano when I was 4 years old. So I have been engulfed in the entertainment industry my entire life. I always tell people I knew how to read music before I knew how to read. My dad was actually a professional piano player as well, and I used to sit by the door and beg him to take me to work with him. And he told me that if I learned how to play the piano or if I learned an instrument and could sing, that someday I would be able to. And within a few years, I took him up on that offer and I learned how to play the piano. I started studying classical. I learned a few songs to sing, and my dad at a very young age took me to nursing homes to start playing the piano, perform for the residents. And I didn't realize how formative and how important that was at the time, but I look back and that early stage of my life, of my career, was definitely the most important. From a very young age, I fell in love with entertaining audiences. I got very comfortable with going up on stage and interacting with others. And I learned that music is a way to communicate. It's a way to communicate with people of all different generations, but all different backgrounds, all different nationalities. There's no language barrier when it comes to music. It truly is that universal language. And that has been a theme throughout my life so much, my ability to connect with people from all over the world, with all different ages, through my music, through my performing. It's truly one of the most fulfilling parts of being a performer. Throughout my childhood, I continued to perform. I performed on national television when I was 9 years old on a series called America's Most Talented Kid. And I continued competing in piano competitions, talent shows, at my school, in my community. And when I was about 16, I started performing professionally almost every weekend. I performed in a lot of the local bars, restaurants, and venues. Any place that would allow a 16-year-old to come in and perform, I was there. And here is where I really started building my repertoire, building my showmanship, building my professional skills at another time that was very formative. When we're a teenager and we're trying to figure out who we are and what we want out of life and what life has in store for us, music was that avenue for me. Music was that platform. Music was that way I could express myself when I didn't really know how to otherwise. So I look back at that time as well, and music was always there for me. I actually decided to go to college for something completely different. I studied government, and my intention was to go on to law school and to become an attorney. Because growing up in a household of musicians, although it was my passion and pretty much my full-time commitment, I saw both sides of what can be a very rewarding, but also a very difficult and challenging and emotionally difficult lifestyle. And I went to college. I graduated when I was 20 years old. I graduated from Harvard University with a degree in government. And 1 month after graduating, I was crowned Miss Massachusetts 2016. And I went on to compete on the nationally televised Miss America competition. I didn't grow up doing pageants. I had been a performer, but pageants were something that I discovered when I was in college. I didn't grow up watching Miss America or dreaming about being Miss America like so many young women do in the United States. But I was working at a music store after school, and there was a customer who confused me for another local pageant contestant. I assured her that wasn't me, but I went and did my own research, and I found out that Miss America was the largest scholarship provider for women in the world. I had a lot of success with the program. I enjoyed the program a lot. I will never forget the thrill of hearing my name and my state being called in the top 15 at the Miss America pageant on live television as my family was in the audience and millions of people were watching at home. And this was such a pivotal moment for me in my life. When I look back at the most crucial times and moments, this has to be up there, with one of the top. Because I had a moment where I realized, I was just top 15 in the entire country, a 100-year tradition with thousands and thousands and thousands of girls from around the country compete in this every single year. And I was just top 15 in the country. It's something that I was new to. I didn't know a lot about. So why was I selling myself short and going on to law school and pursuing something that felt safe and secure and that I could have success in, rather than really pursuing my true love, my true passion, and that was music. And I said, I have my entire life to go be a lawyer, to go back to school, but this is where my heart is. This is what I want to be doing. This is when I feel most alive, when I'm on stage. And after that, I decided that I was going to dive into performing full time. And I started working in the Boston and New York City markets pretty much full time, just going to auditions, going to shows, playing at different venues. I walked into an audition in Boston, Massachusetts that gave me an opportunity to become a guest entertainer on luxury cruise ships. So I found myself 1 month after auditioning over in the Mediterranean, getting to perform on these beautiful, beautiful ships for a global audience while getting to fill out my other passion, which is traveling. And through entertaining on cruise ships, I've been to over 50 different countries and entertained audiences around the world. I've actually spent quite a bit of time in Australia, so I'm very familiar with Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney and a lot of the coast over there. And I thoroughly enjoyed my life as a cruise ship performer. When I wasn't performing on ships, I was continuing my writing and developing my own craft and releasing my own music. Then in March 2020, I was in Mexico. I had just joined a new cruise ship, and the COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to a halt. I had to immediately get off the cruise ship that I was on, and I got sent home. And I was devastated at the time, but I realized just how lucky I was to go home because several of my friends on board were stuck there for several months. And once again, I found myself at a crossroads. I have to make a decision. What do I want to do? Where do I want to be? I couldn't perform live. I didn't have the opportunities to. The world was shut down. There were no concerts unless they were online. So I tried a few different things. I actually traveled cross country in a van with one of my best friends, and we got to see a lot of the United States and just take it all in and take advantage of that opportunity. I also went and I became a certified teacher, and I taught on a private yacht. I was a tutor, and I was a personal tutor for a family on their yacht. But nothing came close to performing. And once again, at a crossroads, having limited opportunities, I decided to move to Florida, where I knew a couple of people, but didn't really know much, didn't have business connections. And I said, well, at least here I have some opportunities to start doing what I love to do again. I have opportunities to get there on stage. And when I got to Florida, I just really hit the ground running. I reached out, made so many contacts, was on social media, was building my resume and my demos, was just getting every show that I could get and throwing my music out there, hoping something would stick. And at this time, I started seriously developing my acting skills as well. And acting became a crucial part of my career in film, commercials, television, as well as modeling events. So I started working really hard at that and submitting to everything that I could. I eventually got signed to an agent, a couple of agencies down in Florida that have been able to get me better, high quality acting work. And I've been able to sustain that as a crucial part of my career. But for the last 2 years now, I've been performing down here, writing music, getting to travel more and more as the world starts to open up again. I'm excited to have a few tour dates around the US this year. So finally getting back into that traveling. And I know that this industry is a roller coaster. It's incredibly emotional. It's incredibly unpredictable. And the pandemic definitely added an element to that none of us could have predicted. But when I sit back and I look at my life, there's nothing that I'd rather be doing than performing and being on stage. And I realized that through my music, through performing and connecting with audiences, I have the ability to influence people. I have the ability to make somebody's day or turn somebody's day around that was having a particularly rough day. And that was something that's difficult, online, that I struggled with during COVID, doing online concerts, because that one-on-one connection you make with people at being on stage is just priceless. I think about different opportunities that I've had where people came up to me after a show and said, "Hey, I know you didn't know that, but that was my dad's favorite song," or, we lost our daughter and that song reminded me of her, or, get an email saying, just to let you know, my friends and I were here for our bachelorette party and we had the most outstanding time because of you. And it's moments like that that make it all worth it. One thing that I really want to do through my music and through my success in my career is inspire other women, other young women to pursue a job and a career in the arts, because it is notoriously difficult. A lot of women feel intimidated to pursue their passions because they're told it's not the safe route. But I want women to know that it is possible and it is an option, and it's going to require a lot of hard work, and you're going to have to overcome barriers that some of our male colleagues don't have to, but it is possible. And I want to encourage female artists to not only have a plan for their career, but have a plan for their finances so they can become financially independent, so they are not reliant on a male figure to keep them afloat even when times get difficult. Because I look back at the challenging points in my career, and I was very fortunate that because of some of the financial decisions that I made early on, it saved me from having to do shows I didn't really want to do, or do performances or take on opportunities that I felt didn't align with my morals or my values or my trajectory for my career, or rely on another person. And I think that it's tough enough for artists to be out there and to be independent. It's tough enough for women to be out there and to be independent. So through my music and through my career, I hope I can inspire other women to live out the dream that they want to dream, and let them know they don't have to be in a particular box or confined by a certain set of standards. You can truly do it all. You can go travel the world and get paid to do it and do it as a performer. That's possible. And you can be a pageant competitor and a model, but also an Ivy League graduate. There's not limitations on what we can do. Life is so beautiful. There's so many opportunities. And as artists, we create. And if it hasn't been done before, we can create that path. So I hope that through my life, I always try to take on new challenges. Aside from being a performer and everything else, I've had some very, very exciting opportunities where I've gotten to be on reality TV. I've gotten to be a tour guide in my town. I've gotten to work for the professional NHL hockey team here as one of their brand ambassadors and part of their entertainment team. And we can try different things. We can constantly reinvent ourselves. There's no one strict path that you have to go on. And there's not just one path towards success as a performer, as a woman. So I want to encourage all people, all creators, all women to try new things, live that life that they want to, never take no for an answer, pursue your dreams, and most importantly, be independent and be happy with who you are and the opportunities that you can create for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Alissa, hearing you speak is like music to my ears.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of women hold back on who
It's
they
true.
truly are, right? I
Hmm.
mean, you pursued this degree, you studied in Harvard, and you just knew in your heart of hearts that this is something that you wanted to do. It was something you're supposed to be doing, and you followed that and
Hmm.
living that. You're really a living demonstration of what's possible.
Hmm.
But
Well, thank
let's
you.
now just go back a little bit, just in case there's a young woman who's listening to this interview, is under pressure from family, from friends to do what they think they should do. You know what it's like when you're under pressure from your family, right?
Hmm.
If you could give that young girl three nuggets of wisdom, and it doesn't even have to be a young girl, it could be an older woman who's wanting to start a new career,
Hmm.
based on what you've done for your own life,
Hmm.
what gave you that resolve? What three nuggets of wisdom can you share so somebody can hold the line and live their dream?
Yeah. I would say the most important thing is to be prepared. Anyone can say, I have this dream where I want to do that. And, well, how are you going to do it? I have no idea. They just want to do it. If you want to do something, you truly can. I believe anybody can do anything they put their mind to, but you have to be prepared. You have to know going into that, especially if you're met with reservations from your friends or your family or society, that it's going to be tough, that you're going to have to overcome obstacles, there's going to be some tears. There are going to be some very lonely moments. So be prepared for that. And if you can accept that and be prepared, then the result is so worth it. But know that that is a reality of it. The second thing that I would say is know your worth. You know what you want and you know what you're trying to accomplish. And nobody is going to be a bigger cheerleader for you than you. Nobody's going to be a bigger critic on you than you either. So you need to believe in yourself and you need to know your worth above everything else, because when people try to pull you down or tell you that you're not worth it or you can't do it, you have to have such a strong sense of self to overcome that. And the third thing I would say is it's okay to fail. We all come up a little short and we have to learn from those mistakes, but we have to acknowledge that they're part of the journey. Not everything's going to work out the way that you want it to, and be prepared to fail, learn from those experiences, and it will help project you for the next time.
I love that. Those are some really beautiful nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you.
Now, I know that being a musician can be challenging, being on the road is challenging. How has this affected your personal life, relationships? You've been on the move a lot. How do you balance the two?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I recently got out of a long-term relationship that was devastating because it was somebody that I really loved. We truly, really did love each other. And at the end of the day, the lifestyle that I choose and that I value is not compatible with most normal or typical relationships. And that's a hard pill to swallow because it's, well, am I have to choose one or the other? No, I hope not. I hope one day that I find a way to balance both, or I'm able to find a relationship that's compatible with what I'm trying to accomplish in life. But the way I look at it now is I have my whole life to, if you do relationships correctly and you find a long term partner and that's the person you're supposed to be with, I have my whole life to be with that person. And there's just too many things I have to do now while I'm young. I have to put myself first. I have to prioritize because those opportunities won't always be there. It can get lonely. It's difficult. I'm lucky that through performing, I do have friends all over the world, all over the country, and they're only a phone call away. But it is tough. It is difficult, and I would say the most important thing is having having strong friendships that transcend that lifestyle that you can call at any time.
I love that. And you're really being true to yourself. A lot of women compromise. We put aside our visions, our dreams, and in the end, you end up regretting that you did. And it sounds to me like you live a life with no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're one of those people who would rather die trying than not having tried.
Absolutely.
So fear doesn't become a big factor, but they say that everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm.
How have you dealt with fearful experiences? Again, there might be some young musicians who are sitting on the edge thinking, what if I fail? What if this happens?
Mm-hmm.
How have you dealt with fear throughout your life and throughout your career?
Well, right now, whenever I get nervous or I'm afraid of a situation, I look back at a previous situation that made me feel the same sort of way. And I say, well, at the time, that seemed like the biggest deal in the world. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I was scared and I overcame it. And I look back and it seems silly to be fearful or to be afraid over something that I look at as just a stepping stone. And whenever those feelings start to bubble up, again, I think, someday I'm going to look at this as just another stepping stone. This is just a notch on the ladder of where I'm trying to go. So it might be scary and intimidating now, but I've felt this before. I've overcome this before. And someday I'll look back on this the same exact way.
That is awesome. Now let's have a little thought experiment. And I'm going to take you into the future now.
Mm-hmm.
You're now 100 years old and you're sitting in your rocking chair, surrounded by your partner, your children, your grandchildren, your dogs, your cats, whoever's going to be there at that time. And you could teleport the current you, the you who you are now, into the future and sit and have a conversation with this wise woman who's leading you to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Based on how you're living your life, what would you say to her when you finally meet her?
I would want her to know that I'm proud of her more than anything else because I think as I get older, one thing that I've gotten better at is setting boundaries, both in my personal life and my professional life. And I know that's something that I will continue to do. I don't think I'll ever lose my work ethic or my spirit for adventure or my eagerness to try new things. But one thing that I will continue to one thing I will continue to do is to set boundaries as I have a more mature understanding of myself. And I think the combination of those things will prepare me for success in the future. And I just want that future self to know that I'm proud of you and you lived a full life. And I'm excited to see all the things that you're going to accomplish because you have a great start already. And I know that it's only going to be up from here.
I love that. The reason why I like to ask that question
Why?
is that a lot of women don't realize that that future self is already in you.
Yeah.
We are born with all of the knowings, all the knowledge that we need to manifest the lives of our dreams. And we need to trust ourselves when that little voice inside is saying go and you're holding back, right?
Exactly.
So what I normally do is I go into meditation and I tune into the energy of the future me. And if I get really stuck, I ask her questions, what is our next step?
Right.
And sometimes it comes through a dream and I get these knowings, or somebody I'm talking to the next day will say something that's connected to what I'm trying to sort out. But we really need to learn to trust ourselves. She's already there. She knows the way. And you just have to tap into her energy to become the woman you want to become. And I can so see that you are well on your way to getting there.
I love that. Thank you for asking that question. That's very thought-provoking.
Now, while I was cyber stalking you, I realized that you and I share a birthday.
Oh, wow. What a coincidence.
I was born on the 31st of May. So,
That's
how many kids are in your family? Tell us a little bit about your backdrop. You
Mhm.
talk about your dad being a musician. What did your mom do? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your backstory.
Well, I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and they're actually both very talented and musical as well. My mother worked a few different jobs growing up. When I was very young, she, for the most part, had the luxury of just being able to be a mom and taking care of us. And both of my parents were very hands on and very present throughout my childhood. And I'm so grateful for that, especially now looking back. The time that I had. My dad was a musician, so he worked at night. So even he was able to pick us up from school and spend that quality time with us. And later on, when I was a little older, I was in probably middle school. My mom went back to school, and she actually became a teacher. So she was a teacher at the school that my sister and I attended, which was interesting. My family and I have always been very close. I think that adding that passion for music, something we could all bond over, something we could all relate to, definitely was some of the glue that kept that bond so tight. Actually, in a few weeks, I'll be going back up north and I'll be performing a show with my dad, which is always incredibly rewarding because I wouldn't be here performing if it hadn't been the guidance that I got from him. But family, more than anything, they're so important, and the relationships you have with your family, they are permanent, and those are the people that are going to love you and be there for you at your very best and at your very worst. You know, they're there. They're those highlight milestone accomplishments, and you know they're there when they need to pick me up at the airport crying because I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I've always valued my relationships with my family and my siblings, and we've always been very close.
Oh, fantastic. It's amazing what happens when a child is born into a family where she is supported and where her talents, her natural intuitive gifts are
Mhm.
encouraged and fostered. A lot of young kids don't get that opportunity.
Mhm.
A lot of young kids might have the talent, but parents don't focus on that.
Mhm.
So, what would you say to a young person who doesn't have the kind of support that you had so that they can reach their fullest potential? What would your advice be?
I would say that a parent or that adult figure in your life doesn't need to be a parent. Find a mentor, find someone at your school, find someone in your community, a librarian, somebody at church. Because I look back growing up, and it wasn't just my parents, it truly did take a village. And I look at some of the most supportive people throughout my career and through my childhood, and there were teachers, there were mentors, there were instructors, there were piano teachers. There is somebody out there rooting for you. There is somebody that wants to help you. You are important to somebody. You are valuable to somebody, and that person would love to take you under their wing. You just need to find them. And luckily, there are a lot of great resources and a lot of great people out there that can make a huge difference in your life. But find that person, find that adult that you can trust and that you can turn to and that you want to share exciting news with, but that you're not afraid to ask for help either.
I absolutely love that. You're so right. It doesn't have to be immediate family members. In fact, for most people, the people who are closest to you sometimes hold you back out of their
Mhm.
own personal fears of things that may or may not go wrong.
Mhm.
So, looking for a mentor, looking for somebody who's done it before you and has succeeded.
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. So, looking into the future, where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now in terms of your career?
Well, this is a great question because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot as well. I went back to my old high school last week where I got to speak to a class of 17-year-olds in the same classroom that, 10 years ago, I was 17 trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And my world looks so different now than I could have predicted back then. But there are some things that I know are going to remain constant. And I know whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be performing for audiences somewhere. I'm going to continue to travel. I'm going to continue to broaden my horizon. I think if I'm looking, relatively in the future, I'd like to move to a bigger music market, maybe a New York or a Nashville, where I have the opportunity to really pursue my own original music and dedicate more of my time in my career towards pursuing that aspect of my craft. But I don't know what 5, 10 years down the road has. I could have never predicted the last 5 to 10, and they exceeded my expectations. So I don't want to limit myself by putting on particular goals for the next 10.
I love that. Well, this has been an absolute honor meeting you. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your talent that you're putting out into the world. Is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't? What are your parting thoughts for us today?
I think you covered everything. I just want to say once again, thank you for having me. And like I said at the beginning of our chat, you can have a great idea and a message you want to share with the world, but if you don't have a platform or an audience or people listening and people caring, then it doesn't go very far. So thank you for giving me that platform and for listening.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is attracting some pretty phenomenal women, movers and shakers, creatives, women in business. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview another amazing woman. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks again for this interview. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.